Aquí tu amigo locutor, programador y muy bien desconocido Dr. G.
Y su cómplice, el Chivo.
Y el Manolo Diabólico. ¡Feliz Año Nuevo!
That's right.
Oh, that's right. We haven't been on.
Dang. Mira, es que se anda... LA's burning.
LA's burning, man.
A whole bunch of shit's going on, man.
Oh, yeah. So, it's been crazy. I mean, ya tenemos... I mean, sí, tomamos la primera semana de descanso, pero like, since then, there's been like all kinds of crap going on. So we just haven't been able to get on.
Man. Mucho que ver, mucho que hacer y mucha destrucción a través del país de que estamos... What is it called? United States?
Yeah. Well, sometimes. Maybe not right now, but, we'll see.
Falling apart. ¿Qué les pareció con el primer grupo Polisquizo?
La neta, I've never heard of them, dude. Por eso estaba preguntando, like, what is up with them?
Imagine that this... So, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about because there's been a hardcore or just a punk scene or any kind of underground scene a través de la historia de underground scenes, right?
Yeah.
En cualquier parte del mundo, I would say.
Es como una cebolla. You can just keep peeling the layers off and it keeps getting...
And generations later, hay más, right? Anyway, so Polisquizo comes from Lenox, California, which is an area really close to where I'm at.
Nice.
Semi-industrial, and I think they were part of another band, and I'm not sure if they actually still exist. I'm pretty sure they don't. So they released only one album, Polisquizo El Pay. Other than that, I know that they're just one of those like underground Latino punk bands.
What year did they release the album? I'm just curious.
I think it was... Yeah, it was around 2012. They started in 2009 and they released their first album in 2012.
Okay.
And, yeah. Right. And so other than that, there's no more. And I think they're... Oh, man, I'm trying to remember.
That's another reason why I love Vecindad. Because sometimes one of us or all of us whip out some obscure, good crap out of nowhere,
Yeah.
And us jaded farts will get impressed.
Are you impressed?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good song.
That's what I'm saying. So.
Yeah.
Bueno, mira, seguimos con una soda de naranja.
Pues no sé si, pues es un duet.
Yeah.
De un grupo, los dos grupos son de España, Fanta, Fanta, y los discípulos de Dionysus, que aquí nos encanta mucho. Esta canción se llama Siguerín, es un sencillo que salió este año. Fanta.
¿Este año o el año pasado?
Oh, el año pasado, shit, man.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, man. So, sí, acaba de salir el año pasado. Fanta es un trío que se armó en 1999 en Barcelona.
Yep.
Super ramoneros. I mean, they've pumped out 6 albums, 2 EPs. So, old school. Definitely old school Ramones punk rock. Y pues, discípulos de Dionysus, man, they're the kings of porno rock punk.
They are, en lo que es País Vasco or España in general, punk rock and roll. They are just deadly dirty. And the funny thing is, they're sweethearts. They're actually really nice guys.
Yeah. So it was kind of interesting porque I was all over the place. Like our set could have gone in a completely different direction. I was feeling a lot of anger and, a lot of like heavy hardcore was on my mind, pero me topé con esta canción y la que sigue, and I just kept it going from there.
All right, I knew where you were going right when you said it. Antes que escuché, because even though ya conozco la mayoría de tus canciones, but I knew what you were going for. You were just going for punk rock and roll.
Mm-hmm. Something to make me feel good.
Let's just do this. Bueno, Fanta plays a lot with nuestro amigo Sugos over there in Madrid and Barcelona. They share the stage a lot, so we've been aware of Fanta a long time. Discípulos, what can we say here in Mi Vecindad that we haven't said about Discípulos? It's one of our favorite rock and roll bands here. Anyways, let's take it away. Mi Vecindad con Siguerín.
usted con el chile piquín, man. Ok, acabamos de escuchar a Rojo Omega con la canción Cicatrices de su álbum, su último álbum, El Elixir, que salió en el 2019. Ya van por casi 20 años, se formaron en 1996. Kick-ass, dirty punk rock de Madrid, España. A ver, Chivo, tell us what do you know about these guys?
They're actually nice guys. Afortunadamente, son amigos de Monte, and we got to share libations a couple of nights in Madrid, and a couple of kick-ass bars over there, you know. And one of the bars, one of the guys was spinning vinyl.
Nice.
Like just
like
dirty 70s rock, you know. And
what were you drinking at these bars?
Oh.
What's the thing in porque yo me he alejado de las barras. I don't go to bars. I haven't been to bars in many years.
Back when I was curious going heavy to Europe was in the early to mid 2000s, and it was a lot como Mexico. It depended what city you're at. You'd had the one or two big beers. So it really depended on
whatever local favorite or popular or whatever.
So, como se dice, como en Mexico, sometimes it's Estrella, sometimes it's
Pacífico or Modelo.
You know, Pacífico. It depends on the region where you're at, and that's what everybody drinks. So, knowing, siempre contamos en gira, we just never argued.
Yeah.
You know, you show up in the area, you see what everybody else is drinking. It's kind of like me and Manny when we were younger, and we show up, and remember we were big fans of Sagres?
Yeah. Fucking Portuguese wrestling hall.
Yeah. And you're like, and it ends up being good beer. So to me, it's like, there's a reason why people are drinking it. Let's go for it. You know, it can't be as bad as Budweiser.
No,
so,
can't be as bad as that shit.
Right. You know, so like,
well, vamos a seguir.
I can't remember. You know,
well, because most of the times, I love that. You just, you're in.
We're hammered.
¿Cómo se dice? When in Rome, right?
Yeah.
So
that's the Roman.
Bueno,
we'll say in País Vasco, they did a lot of cider.
Yeah,
and it came out of huge barrels, like the size of un cuarto, like big barrels,
like big fermenters.
And they would open it up, and they were like, they tap it.
Wood? Was it wood?
Yeah, wood.
Oh,
it was like.
Then lo que hacían, if it was at an old, como un castillo,
una cidery,
un castillo, like una sidrería, and they'd have like una carne asada, and what you would do is that like about every hour or whatever it was, they would say, now we're going to tap this one. So every guy and every guy would go with their pints and they pop it open, and you would just, and it'd be like como si fuera a
stream.
And you would just come and drink, and then they turn it off.
That's awesome.
And then a little bit later, you went to another one, you know? So you would take different vintages. That night was the night that the singer for Brigada got so shit-faced that he couldn't see us play. And his wife took him home, you know. and I remember me and Felix were like brokenhearted. I'm like, but he's going to come and see us play, dude. Like, he's going to come and see us play. And
he'll be there.
He was dragged home
man.
by his wife, dude. Like, she was pissed off.
Sounds like a mess.
Exactly.
All right, let's keep it going. So, speaking of mess, vamos a escuchar a Mess, a.k.a. The Terribles. La canción es Behind the Cross, del álbum que salió hace 2 años, one of the best albums of 2023, Under Attack, de Guadalajara, Jalisco, banda mexicana de punk hoy, estilo UK 82. Yeah, these guys kick ass.
Traditional oi. Can't go wrong with it. I mean, me encanta Mess. This next block is kind of on the fun side. Let's see if there's any surprises.
Metido como hamburguesa.
Ándale. Échale.
Right. Mi vecindad. Seguimos aquí con Mess.
Push my free for the earth and the free that rights and transformation. a mi país malinchista y al gobierno terrorista, a Bin Laden y a su tía y a las ratas de la CIA. Sexo y marihuana, sexo y marihuana.
Sexy Zebras, la rola Sexo y Marihuana.
Marihuana. What do you think they're talking about, dude?
Good times. De su álbum La Polla, que salió en el 2017, un trío de Madrid, España. Oh man, these guys are going to hit 20 years este año. Yeah, so amazing band. Y entre medio de Mess y Sexy Zebras, escuchamos a los Dry Heavers with the Death of Rock and Roll, de su álbum Words of Surrender. Damn, 2007, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Long time ago. Yeah.
Right.
These are all old bands, dude. But you know what? I think rock and roll.
Except for Mess.
Okay, punk rock and except for Mess. Punk rock and roll en lo que eran los finales de los 90s and most of the early to mid 2000s. Because remember Zeke and bands like that, like I mean, they were big around that time, and it was a scene.
That's what Rock Omega kind of reminds me of, is Zeke.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, a little bit more melodic, and I don't mean in a pretty way. I'm saying like just more melodic.
So I was watching the social media and Felix's birthday, right? And somehow I don't know why I have it somewhere, either on my calendar or it just came up somewhere, right?
Yeah.
In Instacrack or something, right? And then next thing you know, I'm like, Stacks is fucking shows up because, you know, the fucking algorithms or whatever.
Stacks is everywhere, dude. Like,
so then I started thinking about the motherfucker, and, you know, like, you know, how many last names did he have? He was like related to most of us.
He was everything. I was just finishing up the story. So then Riverboat Gamblers, they played a shitty show. And then when we were drinking those shots, I don't know if it was the bassist or the guitarist for the Gamblers. They were talking smack on these two gals that walked in, and one walked in with like a white dress, and she looked.
Yes.
And they made some jokes like who's gonna end up like tagging that up tonight, because that's gonna be dangerous. Like you know, by the end of the night,
You get out
got that
Macho
done.
Bravo fucking
No.
whiskeyed out or whatever.
Stacks didn't hear that. Didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
By the end of the night, the guys and the gamblers go like, dude, check out your boy.
Nice.
And of course, it's Stacks, like checking her tonsils out or doing
Nice.
something like.
He was doing an examination,
And
doctor
even the
style.
gamblers are just like, that's when the gamblers were finally going like, all right, man, we just can't compete, dude. Like, you know, like, this is just like,
It's
you're
rowdy.
doing Lemmy.
You know what's
you're doing
okay?
Lemmy and we're doing like Def Leppard or something.
You know,
that.
like right now, you know who's the quietest right here in the scene right now here in this show right now?
Manolo. 'Cause
Okay, so when we
I know
were
why.
okay, but when we when we were out and about together, whiskey shots and whatever, right? We were not rowdy until we had some Kurtz juice in us. Right?
Yeah.
But we weren't necessarily rowdy. We weren't necessarily
No.
We weren't like loud and obnoxious.
Pero Manolo tenía
you know.
fama that remember when you had long hair, Manolo, when it was all long?
Yeah.
When they would see your ponytail go to the side,
it was like,
everybody just got out of the way. Because they're going, it's the way ya anda at
It's like you're
11
flipping
and
the
everybody
switch.
get out. Yeah.
You're flipping the switch.
Everybody get
Let's flip
anyway.
the switch from Sexy Zebras, and before that, we heard Los Dry Heavers. Esos.
And Mess.
Man, hey, you guys don't have a Facebook. You guys don't have like
We don't
social
exist no
media.
more,
It's like,
bro.
what?
Like,
the-
we're done. We're
Well,
done.
no, but
It's- it's-
your music isn't done.
It's
But they
Your
have a
music isn't
MySpace,
done.
dude.
yeah. Just we do have a
Fuck.
MySpace.
I don't fucking tag MySpace. I don't tag MySpace. What the heck? What are you talking about?
We were on tour with
Oh my god.
Tom from MySpace, dude.
Uh,
Anyway, let's keep it going.
Okay, let's go.
Next
Let's go.
up, we're gonna go to Los Daggers.
Okay.
which I don't think the Daggers exist anymore.
Okay.
I played them a long time
Just like
ago,
those Heavers?
pretty much.
Okay.
But check out this. This is a review from one of the respectable magazines that we all grew up with, Maximum Rock and Roll.
Maximum rock and roll.
Yeah.
Okay, so check out this. This is what they say about Los Daggers. Yes, Los Daggers.
Yeah.
Kick out some debaucherous hardcore with some cool, obnoxious vibe as bands like Street Trash, Idle Punch, and Surf Nazis Must Die. Complete with sassy hardcore vocals that few can get away with. They play with a cleanish guitar tone and clearer recording than bands mentioned above, but it works in their favor. The second sound sounds insanely similar to Killjoy's Rich Plastic People off of No So Quiet Western Front. But this is what I like about it. If some friends and I were going to crash some hipster party, skank around the room, and piss in some fashionable person's tall can, I'd throw this record on the stereo to get the thing started.
And you know what?
Oh.
It's a 7-inch.
Yep, there we go. So anyways, let's go with Los Daggers from España that don't exist no more. So whatever.
MV, MN, Mi Vecindad, Diavlovision.
igual, mezclando los problemas con alcohol, huyendo de la triste realidad, mezclando, siempre mezclando. Todos mis días terminan igual, mezclando los problemas con alcohol, huyendo de la triste realidad, mezclando, siempre mezclando. Todos mis días terminan igual, mezclando los problemas con alcohol, huyendo de la triste realidad, mezclando, siempre mezclando.
NCC, Nuevo Catequismo Católico, una banda de leyenda de Donosti, País Vasco. I mean, come on. These guys, I rank them up there with like, much better than the US Bombs, but just as popular as the US Bombs, you know. Great band. Antes de eso, Los Daggers. No más pollas flácidas. I figured, you know, Manny showed up with Sexy Zebras and La Polla, and I'm like, all right, bro, let's keep it going.
So wait.
Hector's like, I'm good for 37 seconds.
And okay. But it says no more pollas flácidas, so that cannot happen. That can. So I'm listening to the music, the playlist, and I'm listening, and I keep seeing the album name La Polla. When we talk about La Polla, we're not talking about the album.
Records.
We're talking about La Polla Records,
Records.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Evaristo is doing a solo tour.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he's touring the world almost. Like he's doing a couple countries
Okay.
Wow.
as Evaristo.
Well, he is legendary,
Right.
in the sense where he can easily get bands to back him
Kinda
up.
like Boom Boom?
In any country. I mean, and you got to think, Evaristo is probably in his middle to late 60s.
Well, and that's
More,
yeah,
dude.
that's
Yeah.
late 60s.
Yeah, late 60s. I mean, if you think about it, if they asked any of your bands to play, like say, okay, I'm coming through California, can you do 4 shows with me? It might be your first and only, first and last opportunity ever, you know.
I'm kind of in awe in that sense.
Yeah.
Because because did they come to San Francisco once?
It might have, but that
You
must
know,
have been in the 90s.
Because
you know.
we saw
Yeah.
those Pleasure Fuckers.
Yeah.
We saw a few bands from Spain coming to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Because San Francisco's always been one of those cities.
Lo que es Los
One of
Angeles,
those
San
cities.
Francisco is where,
Right.
you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially international bands,
Mm-hmm.
right?
He might have come with, what is it, Gatillazo?
Or because he wasn't La Mea.
might-
It wasn't
no,
Los
you might be
Meas.
right, Manolo. Yeah.
Was it Los Cagas or
Yeah.
Los Meas and Los Cagas, or was the other
Yeah,
bands?
yeah.
Yeah. But it wasn't. It was after that, right? Or
Yeah.
before. So anyway.
I don't think it was never with La Polla, but it was there's all his other projects.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway,
Okay.
Nuevo Catecismo Católico. Vamos a seguir esta noche con la música de
Okay.
lo mejor.
After that,
A ver.
we were stuck in España for like the longest time. So now I'm
Yeah.
going like, well, you know, other countries rock and roll.
Argentina.
And I'm partial to Argentina.
Yes.
So we're going to go to Clases 36
Mm-hmm.
with just some good 77 style, you know, sing along rock and roll.
Right.
Check it out. Podemos ser una vez más. Maybe.
Aquí, mi vecindad, Diavlovision, MVMN.
Lo que ves, esta situación tan anormal, sin recordar que vos sos y serás mi chica especial. Y puede ser que escuchas que de mí siempre hablan mal, pero vos lo sabes, soy incapaz de lastimarte o engañarte. Y podemos ser una vez más lo que envidian los que miran, que estamos bien y somos más de lo que ellos pueden imaginar. Y quiero ser tu necesidad, como lo sos vos para mí. Quizás soy cursi, pero no puedo dejar de pensar solo en ti.
alisándome. Vos también te vas. Policías y ladrones robando televisores a la orilla quemándote amor. ¿Qué más que hoy ya no puedo más del circo? Lobo, desiste, lamento, va, estamos navegando. Deambula la mentira que hay en las personas, alisándome. Ahora soy algo mejor. Vos también te vas. Policías y ladrones robando televisores a la orilla quemándote amor. De más que hoy ya no puedo más del circo. Lobo, amo verlo, amo verlo. Amo verlo, amo verlo, amo verlo,
Amor moderno, pelea de gallos. Antes de eso, clase 66, con Podernos Ser una vez más. Dos bandas de Argentina, just kick-ass 77 style rock and roll. Fun time. You know, Juan Novao is on vocals with both groups, so that's why they kind of sounded similar. You know, but kick butt.
Wait, is he the drummer or the singer or the
He's
guitarist?
a singer. Juan Novao is the guitarist singer. He's been in un mogollón de bandas, from Expulsados to Clase 76.
So he's up there with age too. Then.
Yeah.
You know, because
He's-
Expulsados is
he's from the same era of Ataque and Dos Minutos. So he's
a little
okay.
older than us.
yeah,
A
same
little
age.
older.
Yeah,
Because we just turned 40 last year.
I just turned 39. So
You haven't crashed. You never
Like
crashed.
Gen
over.
so we're gonna keep this going
A ver.
y vamos a seguir en Argentina
Okay.
con just a fun style rock and roll band, Quemacoches, con la canción Estás Mal. I'm sure we've all
Cool, fun
three of
song.
us. It's a fun song. It really reminds me of like the Stitches if they lived in Buenos Aires. But you know, I'm sure I've been told this. Manolo, you've heard it on repeat, and G, same thing. Estás mal.
Oh yeah.
Salte del carro.
Mendiga.
No, I don't know how to get home from here.
MN, mi vecindad.
Mientras tanto yo me vuelvo a otro lugar. Tú sabes bien que mientras más quieres tener. Eso te pone mal y eso a ti siempre luz junto a mi montaña de horror. Siempre, 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 siempre vas a ser luz. Siempre, 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 siempre mi corazón. Siempre, 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 siempre va a ser luz junto a mi montaña de horror. Muchas gracias.
En el tintero, Amor Gillette, man, Amor Gillette de Rosario, Argentina. Great, fun punk rock. They're the punk rock that I think we loved when we used to go to see the Gilman back in the 90s. And you would see a band that, yes, they're punk, but they just had their shit together.
Right. They were fun.
And this is one of those bands, you know. Antes de eso, Quemacoches, Estás Mal. Quemacoches, I don't think they're around. I think the last album they put out was in maybe 2016. It's been a while, so I don't think they exist anymore. Desfortunadamente. But, okay, the beautiful thing, if you like Estás Mal and that style, then you're going to love the rest of the music. They remind me of the Stitches, just in Spanish. So if you ever listen to the Stitches, it's going to be right up your alley. Anyways, that's it for my set. And Gerardo, you're going deep end.
Yeah, but before we close out, I just wanna give a teaser. En 2 semanas vamos a tener una entrevista con Lasitud, una banda de Tabasco, México.
Mm-hmm.
They were supposed to be on the air a couple of weeks ago, pero desafortunadamente because of the LA fires, we had to reschedule. And they've been super cool, patient, and we'll have them live February 6th.
Eso, yeah, looking forward to that one.
Bueno, esta noche vamos a terminar con un grupo that has nothing to do with our regular.
No, they have everything to do. What are you talking about? They have everything.
Okay. This is where it's mysterious.
Okay.
This is where it gets mysterious, right?
Okay.
Because so the Gits, right? Seattle, from that era of like that early. What is
early
it?
Mid 80s, late 90s. I mean, late
right?
80s. Yeah.
So the lead singer, Mia Zapata, right, and that's where that mystery comes from, right? Zapata, like was it necessarily a stage name, or was it like a birth name? And it turns out it was a birth name.
Órale, suena de nosotros.
Exactly. And so the fact that she was raised in Seattle during those times, during that grunge scene, and doing everything that needed to be done to be a real punk, there's a thread of individuals who are recognizing her most recently as being Latina, right?
Well, I remember it was a big deal because of the controversy sobre su muerte.
Yes.
This is back when we were all punk rockers, like in the early 90s, and there was a lot of controversy over Mia Zapata's death.
And who is this guy who killed her? Because she was murdered.
Yeah.
Right. And prior to that, she put out, as the band, put out some really good music. And so anyhow, when I was doing my research and looking for Latino punk bands, this came up, and I was like, "Wait, it doesn't make sense."
Well, she was really good friend with Alice Baggs.
Exactly. Yes.
With a lot of and that's what I'm saying.
The Hollywood punk scene.
Tiene mucho que ver con mi vecindad in the sense that she was a Latina punk rocker way before even we were. And the connection, if you look at the dots, it traces back. So
What's most wonderful than to acknowledge, and more than that, is to discover.
Mm-hmm.
Another shot of whiskey, which was very common tonight in our conversation behind the scenes. Another shot of whiskey by the late Mia Zapata with the band.
And the Gits.
The Gits.
Bueno, hasta la próxima, muchachos. Agur.
Buenas noches, raza. Se cuidan.
Hasta la próxima.
Hey, you walking with another headache, I can tell by the lines in your face. You seem to think if you just remove that problem, the answers are what will come next. Another shot of whiskey and maybe I'll be ready. What's still crowded in your head? Never thinking that all the good times were walked in with a bed. Don't know why we compromise ourselves. I thought it was a common understanding. With all I've tried to help with, well, tell me why. No, ain't no happy end. Another couple of beers while I'm savior at the bar, and maybe I'll get me some rest. Don't know why all the good times have to turn up with the bad. It's like you sort of hate your brand is yet so proud. I wonder if you talk what you feel, or is it the way you got it cold dead in your eye? It would be good if you could just leave me well enough alone. The crime of fate is what I have to follow through if I'm going